So, richest fifth. None of these things that are like living off of $10 stuff really appeal to me. They're just cartograms. Um, People who live under $50 a day are concentrated in Europe. People living on $50 to $100 a day. The majority of people who live on $50 to $100 a day in the world live in Japan. Again, they're the richest poor people, and they have the largest number of people living between $50 to $100 a day. So the Japanese, having some of the most expensive petroleum and some of the most crowded living conditions, and some of the lowest crime, some of the lowest homicides, and also a bunch of very startling and crazy social trends going on now. But 61% of the people who rely on this lower middle group are in Japan. Without North America, Western Europe, and Japan, less than 2.1% of the population lives between $100 and $200 a day. And if you live over $200 a day, you are very concentrated between the US and Western Europe. You see a little bit of Korea, Japan, and China. You see Australia. South Africa, and Brazil still even existing on the map, and Mexico too. Wow. This is so fascinating. In Hong Kong, I think, blowing up in the corner. No, that's China and Hong Kong. Wow. Wealth of year one. What? Much less variation between regions. Wealth per person in the poorest region was 4% of that in the richest. So Italy was one of the richest places. Italy was richer than Germany. Italy and Spain were vastly richer than England. Ireland was even almost as rich as England. Wow. Turkey was rich. Greece was rich. That's really funny. Greece, Italy, and Spain were like rich merchant countries, and now they're fucking poor, violent parasites who like take to the streets when bitch and cry when you take some of their benefits away. This is hysterical, man. And that India and China had the same amount of the world's wealth back then, like most of it. You can measure wealth in the past, and nowadays they're emerging again as that. It's like what Lee Kuan Yew said about China resurging, how they'll come back stronger, they'll come back unified, and they'll come back wealthy. Wealth in the year 1500, Mexico is accounting for a lot of it. Those rapacious Spaniards, man. Wealth in the year 1900, oh wow, United States just pops in. Great Britain. Naval trade, superior to land dominance. The British did what the Dutch did and improved. The Dutch had a cumbersome tongue. Maybe natives assimilated the English better. Wealth in the year 1960 and wealth in the year 1990. In the year 2015, it's going to go back to India, China, and Japan. The Americas having some wealth. The African territories. Whoa! I didn't even notice Africa. It's funny how your fucking brain, if you've grown up in the West, must program Africa out, but this cartogram is showing Africa shrink in all history, but that actually in the year 1, present-day Congo, present-day Egypt, present-day Algeria, all these countries are actually a way bigger share of of wealth than the Americas. So wow, this bias against Africa and African buying power, they must have carried it back into the past when they estimated this stuff in some way as well, because Africa probably still had some sort of export-import trade bias that worked to their disadvantage in the past. Probably part of the fact that one of the, ways to measure their wealth were slave exports, maybe. I don't know. But even as a modest participant in the global economy in the time of Christ, as this map indicates, from our measurable time and veritable time, we see Africa's role in the global economy be usurped by the entire rest of the world. That's a maddeningly frightening thought. Africa was once, compared to today, a metropole of some kind. And if you think of today's African captain countries, Nigeria, Kenya, sovereign captaincies, countries with black elites, not white elites, their presence in today's world must be so much more modest than the forerunner states. The African states that could have been measured in the past, that wielded disproportionate influence in the global economy of the BCE to CE switch that time, before Islam. And even Islam must have brought enormous amounts of wealth and development to the African continent at the time that their scientific advances were exploding. And I guess Africa reciprocated in science and cultural, technological advances once they had that infrastructure. Just as Africa had contributed civilization to the rest of the world since the beginning of our human civilization. Research and development employees, that's crazy. They run right up the Cecil Rhodes corridor through Egypt, Ethiopia, Kenya, South Africa's got the most. Well, research and development of HIV too. Patents granted. Ooh. Royalties go back to wealthy countries too. So you make money from patents and royalties. Nasty.